All right. Okay. Greetings, fellow grade 12s. It's Mr. Khatrayo here. Now, as you can hear from my voice, I'm very much excited for this particular episode because we are going to be doing one of the aspects that I admire the most, which is organic chemistry, right? Now, just a brief revision in terms of what is organic chemistry, right? Now, basically, the fundamental understanding of organic chemistry, basically it is referred as those chemistry of compounds that are usually found within our living organisms, right? But now these ones, which means for example, they are found in plants, animals, and also human beings are particularly, right? But now these compound, what is important is that all of these particular compound, they consist, right? They basically consist of what we call our carbon atoms, right? Or rather our carbon elements, right? So basically that is going to be our point of departure. So what we are going to be focusing on, we are going to be focusing on compounds that basically consist of what? That consist of carbon, right? And probably you are asking yourself in terms of why carbon, right? Now, if we can just do a brief recap on carbon, we know that firstly, our carbon is going to be found in what? Our carbon is found in group 4, right? Our carbon is found in group 4. And what does this basically means now? Which means now, when it comes to our carbon, remember that our carbon is our 6, right? It's number 6, which means it consists of what? It consists of 4 valence electron, right? Valence electrons, which means basically it can take up until 3 things, up until 4 things. Why am I saying 6? It consists of 4 valence electron, which means it can take up until 4, which means if this is your carbon, it can bond out with what? With up until the maximum of 4 valence electrons, right? So basically that's the first thing that we need to take note of this particular carbon, right? So which means we are going to be looking at a series of carbons that are going to be bonded here, right? So we are going to be looking at carbon which is bonded with other carbon and also other elements, right? And also other elements such as your halides, right? Such as your halides. And remember, under halides, we are referring to what? We are referring to your fluorine, your bromine, your iodine, right? These are some of the few that we found in there. And now we are also going to bond to some of our oxygens, right? Oxygen, and also all these other, particularly elements within our periodic table, right? So basically, that is what we are going to be looking at when we are referring to our organic chemistry, right? So now the first thing that we are going to be doing now is that let's make up here. So we are going to be basically now looking, or we are going to be trying to understand in terms of our organic chemistry by looking at our some of our different homologeous series, right? Different homologeous series, right? Okay. So now basically, what is homologeous series? Probably one is asking themselves in terms of what is a homologeous series, right? Now we are saying compounds can be classified into families, right? Into families, which means you can have the Zwide families, the Khatrayo families, all the different families. And now we are saying here, we are going to be looking at homologeous. It's homologeous, right? Logeous series, which means basically these are going to be what? Are going to be a family, right? These are family of compounds, right? So these are basically family of compounds. And now, as soon as we talk of family of compounds, we know that we are going to have different families, right? And now particularly, right? Particularly, we are going to be looking at 9 different families, right? We are going to be looking at 9 different families. And what is significant about these 9 different families is that now, how can we differentiate between all these 9 different families? Now we are going to introduce this phenomenon which is now the functional groups, right? So we are saying now these families is going to be separated through functional groups, right? Functional groups. And basically now what are functional groups? So our functional groups basically can be understood as type of bonds or atoms, or basically a group of atoms in a molecule that determines the physical or the chemical properties of the group of compounds, right? So what makes these families to be distinct is that now it is the functional groups. And what determine the functional groups, basically it is what it is going to be the types it is going to be the types of bonds, right? It's going to be the type of bond or basically our atoms or our groups, right? And now what is important about these particular groups is that now they basically they have determined, or the determining factor, it is what it is their physical, right? It is their physical and chemical properties, right? And chemical properties. So basically now that what makes these 9 distinct families that we are going to be looking at. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense to you. Now for now, because this is an introductory video, we are not going to be spending much time. We are just going to be doing some just brief summary of all these 9 families. And then after, we are also going to have some session where now we are going to go into each detail, of each of these groups, right? So now let's see in terms of what are these groups that we are referring to, right? Now, so let's get another nicer color there. Right, so we are saying now, firstly, we are saying we are having this which is called homologeous, right? Homologeous series. Basically now what is homologeous? Homologeous series, basically these, as we said, these are the different families, right? Now firstly we have these first family, which is the family of alkanes, right? We have these family of alkanes, right? Now, and what make this particular family of alkanes to be distinct is that now firstly our alkane consists of these functional group, right? So the functional group of alkane, it is what? It is C that is bonded with one C, right? So basically now the alkane, right? It consists of what? Of single bonds. And when we are saying single bonds, we are saying these things that connect, or the lines that connects the what? The C are what? Are single, right? Single bonds. Probably some of you are single, so you'll relate to this very much better, right? I'm kidding. Now, so we are saying this consists of single bonds, right? And now they are only bonded with an OH, or rather they are only bonded with an H. Look at me saying wrong things. Now they are only bonded, right, with an hydrogen atom, right? So which means, what is it that we found here? You are going to find hydrogen atoms everywhere around these particular things, right? So which means now, for example, now you are going to find your H here, your H here, your H here, your H here, and what? And your H and your H, right? So basically that is going to be our family of alkanes, right? And now what is important about these family of alkane of ours to take note is that it consists of what we call our suffix, which means the last, the last words, last 2, 3 alphabets of our word, which is always going to be what? A-N-E, which is aina, right? So basically that's what our, our alkane consists of. Now, and it consists of what we call our general formula, right? It consists of these which we regard as our general formula, which is going to be given by what? Now, the general formula of our alkane is basically going to be given by Cn and then H 2n plus 2. Again, so basically that is the general formula. For now, I just want us to understand these fundamental basics. Now, so for example, if I can give you an example and say now, if let's say I give you that you are having your what? let's say I give you that you are having your ethane, right? Ethane. So basically now ethane means two, right? Eth means two carbons, right? Eth means two carbons, right? So let's just do all of them, right? So we are saying firstly we are having one carbon. When you're having one carbon, we are saying this is methane, right? So it's meth. Now when you're having two carbons, we are saying this is eth, right? Then when you're having three carbons, we are saying this one is going to be, right? When you're having three carbons, we are saying this is going to be prop, right? And now when you are having how many? Now when you are having four carbons, we are saying now here you are having what? Four carbons. This is but, right? And now when you're having five, you know what five is? Your five is going to be given by a pentane, right? It's pent. And then when you're having six, basically that one, another one is going to be what? It is going to be given by a hex, right? Remember your hexagon shapes, right, from mathematics. Now, and then when you're having your seven carbons, we are saying this is hept, right? So this is hept. And when you're having your eight carbons, this is going to be your oct. And when you're having your nine carbons, this is going to be your nona, right? And when you're having your 10 carbons, this is going to be your decane, right? Right, out together. So basically now these are these particular, you know, prefix, they determine in terms of how many carbons we have, right? So now let's then, now that we understood these ones, hopefully you've copied down there, right? So we are then now going to do what I was regarding as our ethane, which means you know that ethane consists of what? Of two carbons, which means now the basic or the fundamental shape of this is going to be C. Remember we said it's two carbons, and then we know that the carbons consist of valence electrons of four, which means now it can be bonded with four things, right? It's going to be four, right? So which means basically this is an example of an ethane, right? And what makes this to be an alkane is that here you are having your single bond, right? So this is going to be a single bond. So basically that is what firstly we can you know understand as far as our first family is concerned. Now I want us to move to our next family, which we are going to be looking at. Remember we said we are going to be looking at 9 different families, right? So we are done with family number 1, and you know that family number 1